You need to have policies and procedures, and they need to have your values. We've heard this a number of times of, I left for an extended vacation, or I went on maternity leave, and when I came back, I don't recognize the company anymore. That happens because people didn't know exactly what to do, and so they went there and did it their own way. Hi, my name's Steven.
Hi, I'm April.
This is the 3 Pi Squared ABA Business Leaders Podcast, where we discuss topics on how to create and grow an ethical and sustainable ABA practice.
Together, Steven and I owned a 7-figure ABA practice that provided both clinic and in-home services.
3 Pi Squared has helped over 900 ABA practices start up and expand with our comprehensive products and services geared specifically to ABA. Now, let's get to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to ABA Business Leaders Podcast, brought to you by 3 Pi Squared. I'm April.
I'm Steven.
Welcome. Today we have an AMA event, an Ask Me Anything. I posted on our social media groups asking for questions. All questions, saying that once we got 5 or 6, we would record a podcast, answering those questions. I got many more responses than 5 or 6.
Nice.
So I did take, about 10 or so.
Okay.
And as I continue to see questions coming in over the next few days, I'll grab them and we'll record another one, at a later date. So thank you for those of you who sent in questions. I appreciate it. And it's nice to get those conversations going. Some of the questions are, that we received are ones that we get asked frequently, and then other ones were some new questions for us. So, we're just going to go with what we've got. And, if we don't know the answer, we'll at least have a conversation about it, right? And get it going and see where we land. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good.
Sounds great. All right. So let's see. First question. How do you balance providing structure and accountability with offering flexibility to your team?
How do you provide accountability?
How do you provide balance? How do you balance providing structure and accountability with offering flexibility to your team?
Do we know what area? I assume, is this like time off? Is it?
That's the thing about the Ask Me Anythings, right? Because we have to go with what we've got here. We don't have any supporting information really.
No, then I'm going to answer it the way I want to answer it then.
I have an idea too. Yeah. Okay. So go for it.
I am assuming this is time off. So like, how do you balance if somebody, wants a flex day a week, or, how do you have a minimum billable hours if people are not meeting it, is what I assume. And so you kind of got to stick with that minimum, and you can't really adjust that, because what will happen is if you say you are required to get a minimum of 20 billable hours a week, if you have a BCBA that's on salary and they're not getting those 20 minimum billables a week, everyone else is going to see that in the company. And so, 20 billable hours is not, it's a decent amount, but it's not a ton. And there's certainly a lot of flexibility, especially if your funders allow for telehealth. This can certainly help with a flex day. It obviously is going to depend on if it's in home or clinic, right? And obviously it's going to depend on the schedule of the kids that they are seeing, right? So if they have a lot of evening cases, flexibility is going to be difficult. So you do your best. I think the best course of action, if you're struggling with this, is be honest and transparent about how billing works, how, like whether we want it to or not, billable hours are important. If anybody says that they're not, that's not true. You have to be able to get a certain number of billable hours to keep the doors open. That's just the way it is. So we all have to work together, and we all have to do what that minimum amount is so that this company can function and it can continue to be successful. So that's really it, right? Is it's going to depend on your client's availability. Can you switch that around? So maybe if they're not wanting to work Fridays, can you give that client that they would need to supervise on Fridays to someone else? Is that possible? As you get larger, you're going to have to have more structure, and there's going to have to be you're going to have more structure. So you're going to have less flexibility, because you cannot micromanage this yourself anymore, right? You're just going to have processes in place. So talk to your team and tell them what you need. Stick to your guns if that is actually what you need. If you say minimum is 25, but I'm saying that because I know they're only going to get 20, then this isn't transparency. This isn't honesty. This is, this is a game. And so I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend saying, look, we need 20 hours. This is why. I need your support here. How do we remove those barriers? What does flexibility look like to you? And work together with your team, right? Does that's
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was going with it, is just communication, clear, direct communication, and just talking it through. Also, knowing what you want out of it first, right? Like, what are the expectations for your staff or for the situation, and communicate those clearly. And then, especially if it's something new that you're building together, being able to take your staff's feedback and have a conversation about it. And you may not be able to take and apply their feedback immediately, but letting them know that you've heard them and that you are working on how to, make those adjustmts as needed, I think is important.
I mean, another big thing that would happen with us a lot is we would interview BTs, and they would say, I have tons of availability, right? Like I'm available at any time. And then you give them a mock schedule, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I can't work past 3. So and they may be the greatest BT the world has ever seen. But if they can't do, if the majority of your cases are in the evening, and then we have a problem here. And so I would not recommend hiring this person, because the people that are working the evenings are going to see this. Hey, wait, I've been doing evenings for 2 years, and now you're hiring this person and they don't have to do any evenings. Same with the weekends, right? If you need that flexibility, that requires people to come in on the weekends, then you can't hire people that don't work the weekends, because then no one's going to work the weekends, because nobody wants to work the weekends or evenings anyway, right? So there has to be, again, what is your requirement? What is your bare minimum that you need? Very similar to what you need for your hourly rates, right? Your billable rates. What is it that you need? What is the most flexibility that you can possibly provide? And that's the line that you have, and be transparent and open about it. And if it doesn't work with those employees, that's sad, right? Now, you may have an issue where your flexibility is not flexible enough, right? You may say, well, no, I need this person to be here 5 days a week, and they have to work 8 to 6 every day. That may seem to you to be reasonable, but if no one's, if you can't find anybody to accept that position, then maybe you need to take a look at what flexibility means to you, right? And talk to your staff, do some anonymous surveys, take a step back, talk to a mentor, talk to someone else in your area, and see how you compare to others, right? Not saying that, okay, well, if these 5 people are doing it, then you have to do it that way too, but at least get some idea of what others are doing, right? To maybe make a different different strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it like, and maybe we're completely wrong and you're not talking about hours and billables at all, but that's typically when we are asked that kind of a question, it typically revolves around, they don't want to work past 4, or they don't want to work on the weekends, but I absolutely need them to work on the weekends.
Well, and and if it's not, like, even like if it could very well be so many different things, but still, I fall back to my communicate, ask questions, approach it with curiosity, be as direct as possible. And yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question. They're all so hard. Not, they're a lot. They're all have a lot we could say about them. So I'm just going to pick in the next category. Let's see. What is an ethical profit margin per unit / hour when working primarily with Medicaid and fixed rates? How do you balance sustainability, growth, and being competitive with wages and benefits?
What is an acceptable profit to you that you can sleep at night? And this goes both ways. Like, if you're undercutting wages so much that, like, all you're worrying about is being able to get that, that fancy car and that really cool house with, if that is your primary focus and you're struggling to sleep at night, then maybe your wages are too low, right? And or if you realize that you're not able to provide training for your staff, then maybe you need to take a look at this. On the flip side of that, if you're accepting you're accepting rates from funders that are not sustainable unless you had some other funder whose rates were higher to subsidize those rates, then that's like, I would take a look at that, right? So I always go back to what can you accept based on what you want to offer, right? So what does high quality ethical services mean to you? Well, how much training does that involve? What kind of systems are involved? Is this a clinic or is this in a home? How much supervision and support are you going to allow? Those things are very important so that you can get a window into the rate that you need that can actually provide those services. So I don't know that it's it's for me, it's my values and my morals and what is more important to me, right? And we all have to pay the bills. Do I wish that my prices were 5 times as much and still got as many clients? Absolutely. Wouldn't that be great, right? But would I feel good about charging 5 times as much for these things just so that I could get another thing? You know what I mean? So like that's something that everybody's going to be different. I think as long as you're providing quality services, your profit margin could be as high as you want. Now, I mean, there are some, like, look at attorneys, even doctors, right? Like, they don't work with any funders and network, and they know their value and they're very good at what they do, and they charge a lot of money. I wouldn't say that they are less ethical than the person down the street that's accepting Medicaid, knows the rates are horrible, and they're stressing themselves out and they're burnt out, right? And their staff are burnt out. I don't know that one of those situations is more ethical than the other, right? I mean, I could certainly have a debate on which one I think is more ethical. And there are good and bad points to either one. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does.
You got anything?
I mean, I feel like it boils down to ethical means that you're able to pay your staff in a way that you can take care of them, like,
and take care of yourself.
and take care of yourself, and to be able to provide quality services. And so, like, you guys know, I talk about training all the time. So, I mean, ideally are you getting enough to be able to train your staff, versus feeling like you wish you could train them more, but you have like, okay, they have their 40-hour. Okay, let's get them in with a client. You know, and there's a lot of breakdown that can happen, right? If you're not training adequately, because essentially that could mean you're not communicating. And so I think that, I mean, this isn't specifically about rate negotiation, but it's also looking at like using, like, we have a calculator, but like looking at the rates, looking at how much you're going to pay your staff, looking at like the going rates in your area, looking at, you know, what other expenses you have, and really looking at the big picture to see how sustainable that it is.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, and this is talking about, when working primarily with Medicaid and fixed rates, because there's really no rate negotiation with Medicaid. Right. And so you just have to like take that rate and before you agree to it, before you sign to it, before you decide you're taking Medicaid. And then I'm sure that there's a specific value system that you have going into it if you're really wanting to serve that population, right?
And I can understand and appreciate that. But, you know, we've said so many podcasts lately. But if you are working, so just in like, from what I understand, right, talking to accountants and people that help sell companies, if you're wanting to sell it, you're wanting somewhere around the 10 to 20% profit margin. But, and this is a big but, if to get that 10 to 20%, you're working 90 hours a week, that doesn't count. So if the only way that this company is profitable is that if you have 2.5 full-time jobs, keep it running, when you go to sell this, they're going to say, dude, it's going to take 3 people to do your job. And so this 10% profit that you claim is not an accurate, representation of what we're actually going to get, right, when you leave. So that's just something to be thinking about. If you're banking on this company to be your retirement, you want to ensure that you're, you know, removing things from your tasks, you're delegating, and you can afford to do that. So that's just something to be aware of. And then the last thing I'll say on that is do you think that your supervision quality is better when you're working 40 hours a week or 90 hours a week? And you tell me what's more ethical, right? And I'm pretty positive I know the answer to that. I know that when you're burnt out and you're tired and you're stressed about finances and billable hours and parent issues and employee issues, you can't give somebody a raise. Your attention is elsewhere when you're doing supervision. It just is. So, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that with any disrespect. It is what it is. And so I hate when people find themselves at that 90, 80, 70 hour work week, because that's where we hear, I left my last company because I wanted to do something better. I wanted to provide more ethical services, higher quality services. And now the only difference between me and them is it's my name on the door. And that's kind of where this goes when you accept rates that you shouldn't accept.
This is a hard one. After years of parent-led ABA education, why is there no structured system for transitioning young adults to meaningful adult services? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that there is a high need, because it does seem like there's more support available. I mean, our own agency, we were early intervention, and that was my choice going into it, because that's that's where my experience was. That's where my knowledge was. That was my lane and I stuck in it. Right. We offered services for some teenagers, depending on the needs and depending on what BCBAs we had staffed at the time and what their skill sets were. But predominantly we were early childhood into school age years. And I understand that those kids grow up. And I mean, I have dear friends who their children are in their early 20s now. And, you know, they've had to make, or they are currently making that transition from, you know, high school to, you know, from being in school to being in what's next, you know, do they have a job? Are they able to, you know, live in the community? Do they go to adult daycare? You know, what services are out there? And I know as parents concerns can grow as they age themselves and are concerned about, you know, who's going to take care of their children as they age. And I have no answers.
Yeah, no,
I have no answers.
If you want to reach out to us with your state, I can reach out to our community and see if I can help you navigate that. But yeah, I mean, we've done free services for companies that have in the past that have worked with adults just because it's such a need, and it's like how can we help with that? So, you know, if there are any adult
transition, you know, like people who are transitional services, like working, you know, through those early adult years into adult years, teens, you know, depending on, you know, all levels of autism. I mean, yeah, please reach out to us. We would love to have you on the podcast. We would love to maybe get together a group, where we can understand more where the needs are. Mm-hmm. And see how we can help. Because kids grow up and I get that there's a shortage of what to do, you know, and how to get support.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. You guys are asking the good questions. They're really thought provoking, and we can have I love starting these conversations. And as I said before, we're not always going to have the answers. And it is the influx of private equity money into the clinical field helping or hurting the application of the science of behavior. So, are more private equity monies in our field helping or hurting? Like when we're looking at the science of behavior.
I think private equity is it's just like anything else. It's a tool that it can be used, and it can be for both good and evil, right? And so it depends on how management what their values and motivations are. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a big firm coming in and buying up all the little guys so that they can turn around and sell, then that's they're looking for high billables, low wages. It's probably not going to be the greatest. You look at that we did a news article on turnover rates, and that reminds me I need to get something anyway. But we did one on turnover rates, and for larger companies, I can't remember what large was. The
was like over 100%.
It was over 100% apparently. And then for smaller companies, the ones that we mostly work with, you know, it's around, I think it was still high, but it was around 65, 70%. Mm-hmm. So I would assume 35% increase in turnover. There's a reason for that, and not to say that all large companies are bad. So is it good or bad? I don't know. Like I can't answer that question. There are a lot of private equity in AI, and and billing systems. You look at some of these practice management softwares and the crazy amount of money. It's really not even all that much, but like, 27 million, I think one practice management software got, and another one got 8 million. So this is all private equity, right? And does that make your job easier? Well, will they be able to implement AI quicker? And that means there's less admin work. It's easier to schedule. You can, record your session, and the RBT doesn't have to take any data. Like, that sounds amazing, right? So I don't know. Like, you look at like residential services or respite care though, and private equity came in there, and it's just, when you're working with a population that struggles to advocate for themselves, which we are, there's abuse, and that's horrible and awful. But it's not solely because private equity came in. I think, when we did that I Hate My Job series, I came out of that thinking very differently than when I came in. When I came in, it was 100% the responsibility of the owners and leadership to provide ethical, high quality services. And I came out of that thinking every BCBA and every tech needs to have a line in the sand that they will never cross based on their values and their ethics and their morals, and they stick with that, and that will change the dial, right? That will stop bad services and bad ABA. And so, I think it's both. I think you need to have management that will listen, and employees that will say no. And I think that will help provide better services. So the other issue that is happening at the same time, and then I'll throw it over to you if you have anything, but is that we went from 10,000 BCBAs to 60,000 in 10 years. So there is going to be, regardless of whether we want it to or not, it's watered down. You cannot expand the number of BCBAs by that much and expect the same quality of care, because it's just not possible. There's not enough mentors to train that many BCBAs. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you look at the pass fail rate on some of these courses. There are some that are like 95%, and then there are some that are not 95%, right? And that's different. And not to say that the passing the test is the end all be all, but that means something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to add because I just feel like I would be repeating a lot of what you said. It's not black and white. It's not all bad or all good, right? There's a conversation to be had, and all of the pieces that you said really resonate with me.
Yeah. And I mean, people will reach out to me and say, should I franchise or should I get an investor? My thing is, no. Why would you do that, right? Like, if you're leaving a company, and you're leaving them because you want to do something better and different, then do your thing, not somebody else's thing, not a franchise's thing, not a investor that requires a certain amount of profit. And like, so that's my thing. There are places where you can get loans to help if you want to go that route, which will probably be better for you in the end anyway. So that will be my thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of you smaller companies that are going to sell eventually, or making a decision on who am I going to sell to? How do I determine who I will allow to buy my company? Again, I'm not saying one way or another is the right way to do it. But what are the values of the company that you would allow to purchase your thing? Be probably a good question to ask.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. All right, we'll move on to the next question. How do you keep your team aligned and moving in the right direction without micromanaging?
Processes.
Processes, yeah.
I mean, you may not want to hear this, but that's it, is you have to have policies and procedures, and they have to match the behaviors that you actually want.
And they have to contact reinforcement for what they're doing right. And they need to receive feedback for what they're not doing. And you need to hold them accountable, and you need to follow up, right? Because you could have policies and procedures at the wazoo and be like, okay, everyone, follow these. But if you're not checking in and providing feedback and saying, oh yeah, okay, can you tell me more about how we did this thing this way?
Yeah.
Let's look at the policy. Do we need to adjust the policy or the procedure? I mean, like, do we need to adjust this to kind of match more? Are things shifting, or are we shifting away from this policy and we need to bring it back?
Yes.
And so there again, that communication, but, I highly urge, even if you're the company, it's you wearing all the hats, doing all the things from the very beginning. Just start by recording yourself, walking through these processes, like whether you get on a video call yourself and record it, whether you record it into a voice note or however you do it. There are a lot of tools out there now to really help to catch up, to keep up with that stuff. And so if nothing else, you have a starting point for how you do things. So, and then you can change and shape them as you go. But if you have things, it's so easy for us to have things in our head. We know these policies, we know these procedures, we know these SOPs or job descriptions or work instructions or task analysis, whatever we call it, right? But if it's in our head, then as things get more and more crazy and full and busy, and we do get to a spot where we can start having someone help us a couple of hours, and that increases to a full-time help, if they're in our head, it's not going to help as much. Get them out of your head into some kind of format where someone else can take that to get them written, but then just follow them. Anything else to say about that, sir?
I mean, I have lots to say about it, but yeah, I mean, you need to have policies and procedures, and they need to have your values, your morals, your ethic,
your why behind it. Yeah.
It is your vision. And again, we've heard this a number of times of, I left for an extended vacation, or I went on maternity leave, and when I came back, I don't recognize the company anymore, right? So that happens because people didn't know exactly what to do, and so they went there and did it their own way. And then you got to try and rein this back in. So it's holding people to account, and it's but if your like you said, if your policies don't match your behaviors, one is wrong, and so you have to fix that. Right. And then your policies and procedures should match the behavior. And how do we fix that? What do we put in place to maintain that? Maintaining it is the most difficult part of it. So yeah, I mean, if you're struggling with micromanagement, welcome to the club.
Ask yourself why. Why? Okay, hold on a minute. Why am I? Because there are a lot of things that you could unpack too. Let's say you've already got a full team and you've got policies and procedures, and you communicate and you have everything, all the perfect scenarios, right? And you still find yourself really needing to be a part of everything and having things. Maybe you have to ask the questions: does it have to be done my way? Right. What is the outcome that I want from this? If someone has a different way of doing it and it's covering all of the pieces that need to be covered, is that okay? Right. We'll have them write their description or update the description to the way they do it, or and there's a fear there, right? Because I'm sure if you haven't yet, you'll experience it at some point, that as you do start to delegate and you start to hire people and you hand tasks off, they don't all, mistakes happen. it's not always the best fit for the job and you have to start over. And so there's a lot of that. So what's the history there? Right.
Yep.
And, but asking yourself, why am I scared? Is there some fear here? Am I having a hard time letting go of it? If so, why? What's the one baby step that I could take in that direction? And that's talking from two people here who have been in our business owners of different types and have managed teams of people and who are very, I don't want to speak for you, I'll speak for myself, have a history of like being very controlling and type A and wanting everything a very specific way. And, that's my own journey that I've been working on, kind of not being so held tight to that, being able to learn how to let go and let others do and let them. Those of you who know Mel Robbins and her new book, that's cool. That's a good read. So yeah. Good luck on your journey. All right. I think we have
one more thing.
Yeah.
Allowing for mistakes, I think. And
It's
this would,
huge.
and I think this, also means yourself. So, maybe I shouldn't have hired this person, right? Oops. I would urge you to not take that. Then I can therefore never trust another human to do this task. It's like, man, now I know that doesn't mesh with this job, and take this as information that then educates you to make a different decision the next time.
Or even like how you can communicate differently next time, or, getting curious and saying, okay, why didn't that work out? Well, let me analyze that and see like what maybe I could try differently next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Thanks for adding that. All right. So we have time for one more question, and we have like 3 questions left here. I'm going to go with this next question. It kind of builds on what we've already talked about, but these other questions I feel like are a little bit more intense and need more time. So I'm going to go with this one. How do you know when it's a true need for more admin support versus a workflow or communication issue? For more context here, the person who posted this question said, we have the structure to support more clients, but we keep hearing we need more help, another scheduler, another clinic manager, etc., without growing our client base. So it looks like it's like, okay, do we truly need more people to help in these departments, in these areas of our business to be able to bring on more clients, or are our structures and workflows not quite efficient, maybe? And it kind of builds off of what we just said, but what would be a way to check that? What would be?
I mean, I'd be asking questions. So what does help mean? Right. And so like for me, as the ops director of our ABA company, my job was to remove barriers as much as I humanly possibly could from our staff. So what is it that they need help with, and why do they need help? And that would be the first step. And can we automate some of these things, or do they have to be done with a human person? And the answer may be no, this absolutely, based on my values and my ethic and how I feel about this has to be done by a human. Great. Now we have an answer. And so now we know what position we need to fill. Generally, when I'm talking to companies, like a team, so this would be like a BCBA, and they would have, it depends on how many hours on average you're doing, but you got 200 to 240 hours of direct service billables under one BCBA. So we're talking 7 techs underneath that person on average-ish, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Based on 30 billable hours per tech times 7, that's 210, right? So you could have 8, you could have 6, it just depends. And then you typically have somewhere around 20 hours of admin work that need to be done if you're not including billables, like billing. So that's kind of what a team looks like. So typically an admin person can take on 2 BCBAs and it functions correctly, right? Like this admin person may be a hybrid where they're doing some RBT work and doing some intakes, things like that. Or maybe they're doing some part-time RBT work and they're doing scheduling. So, that may be how that 8th RBT kind of works. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of generally how it goes. But this is, again, assuming somebody else is doing billing. This is assuming that you have a practice management system, that you have some kind of scheduling system in place. It's not on a whiteboard and it's not paper and pencil session notes, right? Like, do you know what I mean? So there's some systems in place. So it's really hard to answer that question until I did some kind of a survey with the staff to see what those barriers are. What does help mean? Am I assuming help means one thing when it means something entirely different? Is it just my BCBAs and techs are sick and tired of coming in to laminate? Could we hire some part-time student after school to come and laminate and print things off? And is that the help that they need? Or do we need to look at an automated scheduling system or an automated intake process, right? Like, because those are very different investments and they may take a very different amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it might just mean support. It may mean I need more feedback on what I'm doing, like maybe I'm doing all the things, I'm following all the procedures and here I am, but I'm not hearing anything from anybody. And I'm kind of wondering, am I doing it right? Or at what point am I going to find out I'm not doing it right? So sometimes just having that clear communication and like feedback and check-ins, even if, hey, some girls or boys, right?
And your team will appreciate it. That's the thing, right? Like they will then, oh wow, they're actually listening. They're not just adding another staff member that's going to do some random stuff. They're actually taking my consideration into this, and things are changing, right? So I would ask your staff that what does help look like? What is it that you hate about your job that we can maybe stop doing, right? And we could put someone in place. Are they spending an hour every day cleaning? Okay, how do we stop that, right? Let's get a part-time cleaner in, and they're going to clean down everything in the clinic, and the techs never have to clean again. Like that, stop getting pizza days and hire a cleaner, right? Like that, I think would be your staff would be much happier.
Yeah, potentially,
yes,
but you have to ask your staff.
Correct.
To see what they want, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you again for everyone who submitted those questions. We just love having these conversations and helping as much as we can. And the more that we hear from you guys, then it helps others to not feel as alone, because if one person is asking this question, like we know that a lot of people are probably have the same question. So thank you for asking. All right. Well,
I just one thing. So what do we get wrong? What did you say? Dude, you're a big fat liar. That's not how you do it. So, I want to hear that for sure, right? Like what could be added? What could we do differently? Because we don't know anything, right? And you all are doing this every day, right? We're here to help as much as we can, but you do this every day. And if there's something that you're like, hey, why didn't you talk about this? I would love to know about it so everyone can learn.
100%. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen or watch today. And if you enjoy our podcast, please It's not like and subscribe. It's rate and review.
It's on YouTube too.
It's okay. So
subscribe, rate and review, share, comment, whatever, follow.
All the things.
All of that,
I think it just helps for for it to get out there more to more people. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Hopefully it was helpful. If you would like to gain access to this entire video and actually our entire library of videos, please join our ABA Business Leaders membership. You can find that at www.3pisquare.com.